Hello and welcome to 2021 National Collegiate Men's Volleyball Selection Show. I'm your host, Will Haskett. It remains one of the most difficult tournaments to make in all of college sports. And with no champion from a lost season a year ago, the urgency to get it done in 2021 is at an all-time high. And again this year, 7 teams will hear their names called today, with 2 of them feeling the most relieved because the bracket consists of 5 automatic qualifiers. That leaves just a lucky pair of at-large bids to hand out. The opening match takes place on May the 3rd, with every match this postseason, including the semifinals and the finals, taking place on the Ohio State campus in Columbus, Ohio. And to help me break down this exclusive bracket, I'd like to welcome Vinny Lopes to the program. You know him, of course, as the founder and editor of Off the Block, fresh off of what? 1-2 hours of sleep last night, Vinny? It's always a late night going into Selection Sunday for this bracket because of the West Coast action. You get any sleep?
No, very little. Good golly shucks. You talk about the match taking place in Hawaii between UC Santa Barbara, UC San Diego. I was up till 3 a.m. Central Time covering that. 4 o'clock for you, Will, on the East Coast. It was just insane. Great defensive volleyball in that one. And steal a line for Talladega Nights. I'm all hyped up on Mountain Dew right now. Seriously, I need another Venti Peppermint Mocha. This has just been some crazy nonstop action. Conference Championship Saturday lived up to all the billing. Some fun, fantastic volleyball taking place yesterday. It was just so great to see, and to see the champions crown. This is going to be such an exciting NCAA tournament if we see what we saw last night.
And the excitement started a little bit early because of Hawaii's sort of stunning loss out there in the Big West semifinals. What did you think that did to what this bracket might look like and the ripple effect it had through the community?
Yeah, stunning is the simple way of saying it. Most of us woke up, looked at our phones, and said, what in the world happened? Most of us went to sleep thinking that this match was going to be over. UC San Diego, shout out Kevin Ring and the job that you were able to do pulling that upset. So, going into the conference tournament, most people had Hawaii slated as the #1 overall seed. I think the fact that they lost in the conference tournament now raises some questions. Do they deserve the #1 overall seed still? But an important thing for fans to keep in mind, when you look at the selection committee criteria factors, conference champion is not one of them. So you take a loss in the conference tournament, that is almost the same as a loss in January, as a loss in February. It's not treated any different. So with that being said, you look at all the data points, Hawaii, fantastic case to still get the #1 overall seed. However, the challenge this year is the data is so incomplete because of the pandemic. There weren't a whole lot of non-conference matches. So things like RPI, things like non-conference schedule, those really don't play too much into it just because they're so skewed and wonky because you didn't have that crossover. So if you're on the selection committee, you didn't ask for any of this when you signed up and said, let's do it. This is one of the toughest jobs in the world they've had to do, figuring out the bracket this year because of no crossover play. And whoa, Nelly, it is a tough job, to say the least.
All right, trickle down. One more question before we finally put everybody's minds to rest with this actual bracket coming up. The loss by Hawaii and the trickle down to just those 2 at-large selections that are there. Do you see any more nervousness around the country because of what happened there?
So there would have been a lot more nervousness had some things not gone chalk yesterday. Right now, if you're on the West Coast, you are saying thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan, Fred, and Lewis, for taking care of business, beating Loyola. That alleviates some concerns. And then the fact that UC Santa Barbara was able to win and beat UC San Diego, I think alleviates some concerns as well. Because you went into this tournament, you went into the postseason, you figured that the Big West was going to have 2 teams come out of it. Probably Hawaii, probably UC Santa Barbara. So one of them was going to be the at-large, one of them was going to be the automatic. And the fact that UC Santa Barbara was able to get the automatic, a little less concerned. But once again, had UC San Diego pulled off that upset last night at 3 a.m., it would have just been bedlam. I would have been throwing all my bracketology papers out the window because it would have been just nuts. So you never know on Selection Sunday. This is going to be intriguing. There's tight races. I'm just so excited to see this bracket, Will. I don't know about you.
Oh, well, let's get right to it, shall we, Vinny? Let's not delay the drama any longer and answer one of those questions right off the top, because we will unveil the top overall seed, and it does indeed belong to Hawaii. Marks the second time in program history with back-to-back tournament berths and the first instance since back in 1996. But as we mentioned, it takes the at-large berth to get here after that stunning loss in the Big West Tournament semifinals. The number one seed in that tournament, the Rainbow Warriors earned that distinction. They were the best team in the conference with their lethal offense all year long. The top attacking team in the country, led the nation in almost every major offensive category. Patrick Gassman remains an absolute beast for this team. He leads the nation in attack percentage at nearly a 500 clip, while also ranking top 3 in blocks. He is rapidly rising up the school's all-time blocks list. So they get the number one seed despite that semifinal loss. They have a bye to the semifinals and await the winner of an opening round game, which starts with the aforementioned UC Santa Barbara. First tournament appearance since 2011. The path to the tournament was blown wide open for the Gauchos when Hawaii lost on the opposite side of the semifinals. It was an opportunity that they would not squander. Randy DeWeese had 13 kills in last night's Big West Championship. Many offsets from Casey McGarry, who leads the nation in assists per set this season. 5-time national runner-ups are hoping the path clears again for them to win their first national title. And they face the final at-large berth in this bracket. We delay the drama no longer and say hello to Pepperdine. A semifinal showdown with UCLA in the MPSF semifinals may have been a de facto play-in game for this tournament, with the Waves handling business in straight sets before losing to BYU in the conference championship yesterday. How about the transition it's been for Spencer Wickens this year? First team all-conference, he moved from the defensive role to the outside, ended up top 10 in the loaded MPSF in kills, digs, and attack percentage. This marks tournament berth 16 for the 5-time national champions. All right, Vinny, there's a lot to unpack with just the first 3 teams that are now off the board, including the 2 at-larges. We knew Hawaii was in. They get the number one seed, validation for all of that work leading up to their first loss.
Yeah, absolutely. You talk about the performance that this team has done throughout the season. Just such a sound team in all areas. One of the most athletic teams that we've seen in Hawaii's program history. And they can beat you so many ways. Whether it's Chaz Galloway, great passing on the outside. Whether it's Colton Cowell. Whether it's in the middles with Pat Gassman. You have a fantastic setter. You have a great coach. They are clearly the number one team going out in. And oh, by the way, a guy we haven't even mentioned, probably going to be the National Player of the Year, Rado Parapua. Fantastic. Absolutely amazing. This team is loaded, ready to go. They proved that they were the number one team throughout the season. They deserve to be the number one overall seed. And credit to them, they were able to get it. But I tell you, the 2 interesting things stand out for me, Will, here in this part, on this part of the bracket. So first, let's talk about the final at-large going to Pepperdine. So once again, this was going to be the question of Pepperdine versus UCLA. And what does the committee value more? Do they value more head-to-head results, or do they value the selection criteria factor of record versus teams under NCAA tournament consideration? Because it was down to it was down to UCLA and Pepperdine. So head-to-head, Pepperdine had the 2-1 advantage against UCLA, including defeating the Bruins in the MPSF tournament semifinals. Now, if you're Bruins fans, you're going to say, wait a second, we were without 4 players for that match because of COVID, and we had 2 victories against BYU. So UCLA's record in record against teams under NCAA tournament consideration was 3-4, where Pepperdine 5 losses to BYU. Their record against teams under NCAA tournament consideration was 2-6. So this was going to be a fascinating case for what they value more. The committee, do they value head-to-head or the overall body of work? And in this case, they went head-to-head this year. I don't think you can have a complaint on this. Once again, this was such a tough year, to decide who was going to be in the at-large bids because you didn't have that cross-conference play. So tough to decide. In the end, I think the committee made the right decision. Once again, if you're UCLA fans right now, I totally get it. You're upset. Hey, you had 2 wins against BYU, and Pepperdine didn't have those wins against BYU. You were without some of your starters for the MPSF tournament, but end of the day, this was such a tough decision. I understand where the committee comes from. No complaints on my end on this one, but man, I can guarantee you the committee spent a lot of time talking about this one because that is close.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And again, every year we know very deserving teams don't make this very small bracket. One quick thought, Vinny, before we go to the final 4 teams to unveil in the bracket, and that is really the pathway now for Hawaii, because you get not just a conference foe that you could meet in the semifinals, but a very motivated other at-large out of the MPSF. This is no easy little top half of the bracket.
No easy top of the half bracket at all. And I'm going to tell you this right now. That Pepperdine UC Santa Barbara match,
yeah,
it might go until Wednesday, because those two teams are so great defensively. I don't know if the ball's going to ever hit the ground. You just talked about the great passing, the great defense right there. They may have to push that match back because this match could go 4 or 5 days just with the defense that we see on the back rows with those players. But yeah, this is going to be a really fun matchup. And the thing I love that the committee did, by the way, I do want to stress this enough, is they really looked at the bracket and said, let's seed teams based off seeding. They didn't start playing with it to try to avoid a possible all Big West semifinal matchup.
Yeah.
I think that is super critical this year, because you could have easily have played with this to try to get UC Santa Barbara down, so the only way they could play Hawaii would be in the finals. But I love the fact that the committee stayed true to the data and stayed true to the data.
Yeah. No doubt about it. All right, there are 4 more teams to unveil. They all know they are in. They just don't know where they're slotted in. So let's get to the bottom half of the bracket and unveil those final 4, including 2 more opening round matches to get to our second semifinal. The first match of the tournament will feature Penn State. The 32nd tournament appearance in program history, extends the best mark of any program in the country. But for the 2-time national champions, just getting here is a treat. The EIVA champions made the tournament for the first time since 2017, fresh off a thrill with George Mason. Cal Fisher and Brett Wildman have been the 1-2 punch on the attack this year, and it wasn't any different in that championship match. They racked up 48 of the Nittany Lions' 58 kills in that championship win over George Mason. They will be on the attack against Belmont Abbey. History this year for the Conference Carolinas champion, the Crusaders, heading to their first ever NCAA tournament and are still flying high after securing the AQ last weekend. Brennan Davis was the most outstanding player of the tournament. He ranks inside the top 10 in the country in assists, setting up this offense. And look at that celebration, how much fun that was a week ago. Winner of that opening round matchup faces Lewis, champions of the MIVA. We heard from Vinny earlier again. Always feels sweet to do it against a rival like Loyola, which they did. It's even sweeter to do it in straight sets. The Flyers raced out with a dominant first set last night, never looked back, attacking at a 364 clip for the match. Ryan Coonan was 1 of 2 with 10 kills on the night, which actually dipped his average a little bit. High usage all season long. He ranked 2nd in the nation in kills and also top 10 in attack percentage. All right, those opening round matches will weave their way through, and the survivor of those 3 teams makes it into the second semifinal. That's where the number 2 seed BYU will be waiting in the wings. The Cougars were the top team in the loaded MPSF all season, punctuated it with the tournament title. It helps to have a superstar on the wing. Everybody now knows the name Gabby Garcia Fernandez, the Federation's Player of the Year for the 2nd consecutive season. Top 10 in the country in points, also a lethal server. He's top 5 in the country in aces. He had not 1 but 2 errorless double-digit kill performances this season when he swung at an 800 clip or above. This marks the 10th tournament appearance for the Cougars, who own 3 national titles, the last coming in 2004. All right, Vinny, we knew that these were going to be the 4 teams on the bottom of the bracket. What do you see in terms of that pathway to the semifinals?
Yeah, well, I think right now, I think if you're in the EIVA, you're probably a little frustrated at this point. You're looking at Penn State, saying, really, Penn State's in the play-in match. They should they not be in the play match? Should they be playing UC Santa Barbara and Pepperdine be in the play match? Once again, this was such a tough year in terms of no non-conference play for the committee to decide where to place teams. And Mark Pavlik alluded to that last night. The Lewis BYU matchup, I think that was really interesting because the data points were so close. Interesting enough, Lewis was finished number 1 in the RPI, but they're slating the 3. BYU, a little bit of a tougher schedule, so totally makes sense on that end. I think that this is going to be some great volleyball, though. You talk about that opening round match, though. You have 2 teams that just love to grip it and rip it. We're going to see some high-end serving in that play-in match between between Penn State and Belmont Abbey, and then that possible matchup playing Lewis. Just a fantastic all-around team. Size team is great middles, and then going into BYU, whoever faces that, you're facing a senior veteran-laden team that is really trying to get the monkey off their back and winning a national championship. So we're in store for some great volleyball, Will. I am so excited that we've been able to have this season, so excited that we've made it to Ohio State where they're going to crown the national champion. And let's do this. Let's not even wait a week. Let's just get everyone there tomorrow. Let's play this. Let's do it.
I think there's some teams that might still be sleeping after how late we went last night. So we will wait until next week to do it. One final thought, though, Vinny, and you mentioned it. All of these matches will be in one spot. It's not an opening match and then waiting for people to get to that final site. Very exciting for the sport to have every deserving, all these 7 teams come together and play in one spot for the week.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think that's the great job that the NCAA did and the committee did to make all the teams feel like they're really a part of the NCAA tournament. And this is, you talk about a school like Belmont Abbey. This is such a great opportunity for them to go to Ohio State's campus, take on Penn State. You're talking about small little Belmont Abbey going up against the behemoth of Penn State. This may be the biggest sporting event in Belmont Abbey history. They're going to be pumped up beyond belief. They're going to be trying to raise the red and pull off the huge upset against the Nittany Lions. We are just in store for some fantastic volleyball. I can't stress that enough.
Vinny, I know you need to get some rest, but I know you'll be churning out content as well. Thanks so much for your time today. We cannot wait to serve it up. All right, the field is set. All 7 teams still alive in pursuit of a national championship, and we will indeed serve it up a week from tomorrow on May the 3rd with the first opening round match of the tournament. The semifinals will be set the following day with our final opening round matches before the semifinals take place on May the 6th and the national championship then on May the 8th. All those matches will take place at the Covelli Center in Columbus, Ohio on the campus of Ohio State. You can watch the semifinals right here on NCAA.com and catch the national championship match on ESPNU. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Will Haskett. Congratulations and best of luck to all the student athletes competing in this year's championship.
For the win! If a champion can teach us anything, it's to stay hungry, to keep our resolve, and to prepare for what's next. So to the players in the college sports community who never stop believing, the end goal is in sight. The ultimate rally. A comeback for all ages. For the fans, the teams, and most importantly, the players. Let's bring on the next champion. We're ready.